We'll call the meeting to order, February 2nd council meeting. It is Willie Groundhog Day, and our Canadian Willies have a differing opinion on whether we're going to have an open winter or it's going to be closed. So we'll move right into the meeting today. We have a resolution to name an acting deputy mayor. So Corporation of the Town of Minto, the Council of the Town of Minto appoint Councillor David Turton to act in place of head of council and deputy mayor of council for February 2nd, 2016 council meeting. While also acting, the member has to may exercise all the rights, powers, and authority of the head of council. We're moved by Councillor Elliott, seconded by Mary Lou, Councillor Caldwell. All in favor of this?
No discussion?
I was going to say, what if we say no?
Discussion.
I don't agree.
Let's have discussion.
I'll vote for it.
All in favor of that motion? Against? Thank you. That's carried. And don't worry.
Anybody got a?
So next on the agenda is the disclosure of pecuniary interests under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Anybody disclosing? Hearing none, then we'll move along to the minutes of the previous meeting. Regular council minutes of January 19th, 2016. Moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that the minutes of the January 19th, 2016 council meetings be approved. Discussion? All in favor of that motion? Against? That's carried. Thank you. Additional items disclosed as other business. Anybody have anything today? Councillor Caldwell, Councillor Dirksen. And I have one myself. So, okay. So we now have a resolution to move the council into the committee as a whole to consider public meetings, declarations, public question period, correspondence, reports, motions for which notice has been previously given, and other business. Moved by Councillor Caldwell, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the Town of Minto Council convenes into committee of the whole. All in favor of that? Against? That's carried. So we have no public meeting today, but we do have a delegation. And we have Mark McKenzie here from the Hairston Historical Society. Mark, do you mind coming up, please? No, Brian.
He's being abandoned.
You want to be on TV?
No, I'm not going up.
Yep. Okay, and we have Willa Wick as well. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you, Council, for allowing us to speak today. It's been a while. We did send you our newsletter. We're here for a couple of purposes today. But we sent you a newsletter with what happened in 2015. We had a very active year in doing displays and logging local memorabilia. And it kind of gives you an overview of what we did do. If you have questions about that, we'd be glad to answer them. If not, we'll move into, and going along with that actually is next week we're hosting an open house and a special reception concerning Mr. Carl Wepler, who made history last year when he was the first man from Minto to qualify and compete in the World Champions in the plowing match. So he's going to do a presentation and speak to the public on Wednesday night at the library. So I have flyers here. I didn't need to come for that reason, but it's here and I'll hand it. You can read about it if you have time. Please come over to the library.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mark. It's very interesting. And I'm moving along quickly here because I only got 10 minutes, right? So
5 now.
5 now. Thanks for that one. Okay. Here we go. As you well know, our history is so really important to Minto, and to showcase it is more important. So people passing through or going down the street can, if there's plaques on our buildings, can read about the history of that structure. I'm going to tell you that the province has discontinued the plaque program, so we are no longer eligible for funding, where the private sector isn't either. And you have assisted us in the past with various plaques for individuals, the walking bridge at the Palmerston, Dr. Fitzgerald, Reverend Smithhurst, pioneers in our township. We'd like to continue that program as a local marker program in a partnership with the people that own the property, or if it's a municipal building, it would be with you people. So I'm asking if that idea, I'd like to plant that seed with you, and if that idea, you welcome that, I would like to strike a committee with council just to get some details and come back to council with a proposal to continue a local marker program in Minto. It's not only for buildings, but individuals, landscapes, organizations, special events over the years that made history or that make our town what it is, and we need to recognize that. There's not a whole lot, not like houses. We've been doing houses since 2003. I don't know if we'll ever finish that, but it's an ongoing project. But things like the town hall, for instance, is your building. We would like to put a plaque on there with some text, some history of that building and the previous ones before that. One that comes to mind is the post office. I know it's a private endeavor. He would have to partner in this program to get a plaque. That's underway, but it's kind of on hold now until the answer is on funding for that one. So, but anyway, that's where we're at. We're kind of in a dilemma for that. We can't do marker programs anymore unless, hopefully, council agrees to partner with us. So I could answer questions, or we can.
Councillor Dirksen.
Thank you. Through you, are you Councillor Turton tonight? What are you?
Acting Deputy Mayor.
Through you, Acting Deputy Mayor Turton. To Mark McKenzie. Mark, I'm wondering, are you mostly talking about the small size plaques that we currently have on the homes then, or are these bigger, better, more expensive?
These are plaques like we have done in the past. Yes. There's 4 of them that we have done so far in the last few years.
Yep.
I think you're aware of those.
Mm-hmm.
There's one out on the Ray farm and they tell the history of that person or the property.
Right. And what's the kind of ballpark figure for those?
Depends what it's made out of. Costing, you said?
Yes.
It could vary from $1,500 to $3,000.
Okay.
Depending on what it's made of, aluminum or bronze.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Caldwell.
Through you, Acting Deputy Mayor Turton. I'm just wondering what you had in mind when you said a committee of council, or if it could be done through one of our current committees, such as cultural planning, or I know Willa is a member of cultural planning, and maybe could that be part of that committee? Or what did you have in mind when you said you wanted a committee of council?
I didn't want to strike a new one. It's just a temporary one to tweak the idea and get some lay some ground rules on people applying for these or businesses. And then once it's in place, I'm speaking on behalf of the Heritage Group, Historical Society, we'd be glad to do the history on that facility.
You're saying like a couple of members of the Historical Society and 1 or 2 members of council on this committee?
Just to start, so we get some ground rules and then all you would have to do is, if it was one of your properties and you approve it and you wanted the plaque, then there'd be an application to fill out and you'd have to approve the text the same as a private person would, business, and it would come back to you for approval.
Yeah, thanks. Mark, were you looking for dollars and cents from us? Do we need to budget some money to support this if we were going to partner with you, or what were you kind of looking at? What kind of budget? What kind of dollars?
Well, if you like the idea of the marker program, council would have to have a budget because some of the buildings are municipal.
Right.
And hopefully you want to recognize those.
Would you be looking for support for the whole program?
Well, if it was,
if-
for instance, the post office.
Yeah.
If a private individual wanted to put a local heritage plaque on his facility, he would approve the text. We would do the background research for it. He'd apply for it. He'd have to pay. We'd have to work these details out. That's what I'm saying.
Right on. So if we wanted something in our buildings, then we'd be responsible for the dollars and cents to put it on.
Your own? Yes. And possibly even the private sector on Main Street or a landscape somewhere or an organization would apply, and possibly council had a fund that they could contribute some money towards it.
Okay.
But
Mark, did I hear you say a number of those plaques that are already in Minto?
I only have 4. We have 4.
4 in total.
With the text like this
Right.
on it. There's close to 100 house plaques, but they're not. That's a different program. But just the province has abolished that program, so it's tough now to recognize our local history.
How long has that program been in effect?
Through the province, it's been going on for 20 years.
So if we have been successful in 4 in 20 years, I mean, it might be a while before we have another one, unless you're talking precisely about the old post.
I'm suggesting we do it ourselves. Minto has its own local heritage marker program.
CEO White?
Mr. Acting Deputy Mayor, if I may, through you, on the screen there we have the Treasurers of Minto website, and I'm not sure that I was looking quickly, but I'm not sure we have the plaques that you have unveiled on our Treasurers of Minto website. I stand to be corrected, but if we have a number of we have the historical sites identified, so I would like to see us do this and tie it into our website as well. Most recently, what we've done is tie in the veterans' street names to the histories. So you can actually go to Frank Lambier Court and find out who Frank Lambier was.
Right on.
And we just finished Tuppy McDougall's. We haven't put that on the site yet, but we need all those plaques on here. And then I think, if I may, working with the Cultural Roundtable to identify new sites and make recommendations back to council, I think. And that's the way to go in my mind. I mean, we need to get these all recognized.
You have helped us in the past with these, and the credit line at the bottom includes the town of Minto. We have to do that, of course, and it's a good thing. But it gives the full history of the person or the building, and it's just a great thing for visitors or locals or walking tours and everything. And you are aware of all that. It helps the town promote itself.
Sure. So what do you think of that idea? Our CAO is linking the Culture Roundtable with the Historical Society and working together, or do we need to have a resolution to form a committee, or what's your thoughts? Councillor Anderson?
Am I allowed to make a motion? I would make a motion that it gets taken to the Cultural Roundtable. It seems an unsuitable place to put it, and then we would do, if we like, an inventory of places, maybe put out a posting to say if people have a plaque that they may have done on their own, that they submit them to be accepted and listed on the Treasures of Minto, and that we look forward to creating further signs as people bring them forward.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson, can we have a seconder? Councillor Dirksen? Any other discussion? Would that satisfy? Go ahead, Councillor.
For you, Acting Deputy Mayor, I was just going to suggest that the Historical Society submit to the Cultural Planning Committee any possible plaques that they were thinking of and an estimated cost. And then the Cultural Planning Committee could make a recommendation to council to cover the cost or half the cost if it happened to be an individual building downtown. and that would be brought back then to council for approval. But you would
Thank you.
decide which historical sites that you'd like to see the plaque, rather than just kind of an open.
CAO White, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that would work quite well. And the roundtable, as I recall, beginning of each year, sets its work plan. So working with the Historical Society on that work, including that in that work.
Right, and
Would
see
be
how
the
many
time to
maybe
do it.
that you're thinking of for that coming year, and so we could set a budget accordingly.
Thank you. Yeah, I would find there's quite a bit of time to do research, etc. And the people involved or the owners would have to approve the text too. But we don't mind doing the research and getting it ready and going through. We don't need another committee if you don't have to.
No.
If it's already exists, that's a great idea.
So we have a
So-
motion. That motion will capture exactly what you said, CAO White.
I think
Okay.
we can word it accordingly that we send this outreach through the cultural roundtable and do this further.
Any other questions? So can we'll vote on the motion. All in favor of the motion? Against? That's carried. Thank you.
So in the meantime, what will we be waiting on? Or
I think, if I may, through you,
Yes, go ahead.
Chair, Belinda will be in touch with you and set a time where you can come to the cultural roundtable and participate in their work planning for this year. And in the meantime, get the ones that are plaque, make sure they're on here.
right, I'll send them to
They
you
should be.
as soon as I can. Yeah.
I'm looking for them and I can't find them yet. When you're in a meeting trying to find them, it's never as easy. So
I will send them to you.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
So thank you
Yeah.
on behalf of our mayor and council and citizens. Thank you guys
Thanks.
for coming. And we
Thanks.
appreciate all the hard work that you guys do in the Historical Society. So good luck. Thanks. Next on the agenda is public question period. And do we have anybody that wants to speak on that? Councillor Anderson, do you want to talk about that particular item that we talked about? Sorry to put you on the spot. That's happened before, I'm sure.
That's all right, Acting Deputy Mayor Turton. It is, but that's all right. It's afternoon. You can expect to have mouthfuls this afternoon.
I couldn't even say it.
Thanks for an opportunity to bring some information forward. There was a situation in the town of Palmerston that a person just off of Toronto Street who has a disability and blindness, and she was finding that the traffic across, I do believe it's the corner of Toronto and Prospect, where the public school is.
Right.
She approached the roads committee of the county of Wellington and was wondering about initially putting some sort of a stoplight, stop sign, stop apparatus in there. The roads, she sent a letter to the county, and the county looked at it from the roads committee and made a recommendation to county council that what we're going to be doing is we're going to be putting up a solar crosswalking system. That anybody that wants to use that system, they would just activate it as need be, so that it meets the accessibility permit and then requirements within the province. They've sent a letter back to the individual, and we are going to try it to see if it works and meets her needs. The cost of this project we had money set aside in our accessibility budget from within the county to pay for this, so it's not going to be an extra expense. And so we're moving quite quickly on that. I think we just received the letter in the end of December, January, and they're looking at implementing that program in March.
Go ahead,
Through
Councillor.
you,
Baldwin.
Acting Deputy Mayor Turton, can you just explain logistically how it works? Do they press a button to activate the crosswalk? Is that how
That is
it
correct.
works?
That is correct.
Okay.
So that it's during the school time, there's already a crossing guard there to assist the kids coming across. But this would be something that would be active all the time. And then in the evening, there will be a little battery charge on there that it'll still be able to work when the sun's out. So they've used this program in many other towns and it's worked quite well. So we think it'll meet this need of our resident, and we'll see if it doesn't meet it, then we'll have to reevaluate it.
Might be an answer that.
Councillor Dirksen?
Thank you, Chair Turton. It sounds like this is maybe something that's not really permanent, so it could be removed and taken somewhere else and used another place if something different had to be installed there. Then is that true?
Right now, we're responding to a need,
Right.
And we will see how it works. Whether it might be, it's always can be relocated.
Yeah.
But right now, there's a lot of traffic in that area, and that was her concern, is the amount of traffic on Toronto Street that she has. I do believe she has a seeing eye dog also that helps her with that also.
Councillor Anderson?
Are you acting deputy mayor? Is it a stoplight then? Does it activate a stoplight, or is it just a crossing walk that signifies that she can go, but does it stop traffic?
It's
Or you have to count on them seeing her and noticing that there's now a stop signal there where ordinarily there is not.
there'll be a flashing light with that'll show this for traffic to stop.
Thinking so there wouldn't always be a stop sign there stopping people.
No.
Just wonder whether that'll cause more issues when people aren't expecting it, and all of a sudden it pops up and you go, whoops.
No, without it activating, it'll be traffic as normal.
So there's no stop signs on Toronto presently, and so we're going to have to wait and see how it works.
Right.
Councillor Elliott?
So you didn't have to do a traffic count or anything like that to do this? Well, because obviously that I had concerns about downtown Palmerston. It's getting more and more difficult for people to get across the street. So this is something that we could maybe consider for downtown.
We've done many traffic counts on Toronto Street just because of it. It's a county roadway,
Right.
And with even the subdivisions coming in there and the school and it's been a consistent. They have a very good idea of the
Trucks.
volume of traffic coming down that street. So again, this is it's a directive under the Accessibility Act. And if a person needs as a accessibility in the deficiency, then we're responding to.
So the reason I'm concerned too is definitely accessibility, because it's basically the seniors and children, smaller children, that have difficulty getting across the street. I mean, the average person can get across the street,
Right.
Wait 4 or 5 cars, dart across the street, 4 or 5 cars come again. But it's not really the numbers. It's not how much traffic. It's they can't get across the street fast enough to allow them to
Sure.
get across the street for a long time or feel safe about crossing the street.
Right.
So is something like that, what would we have to do as a community if we desired something like that for our main street? Because it's definitely an accessibility problem.
There's been quite a history on the main street of Palmerston
Yes,
with
Bob Cherry
correct.
way back.
And initially there was a request of stoplights
Yes,
in the middle part of Palmerston.
that was a request when it was down in Palmerston.
Exactly. And there was many traffic studies at that time, and in conclusion, there wasn't the need for a set of stoplights at the time. That was quite a few years ago. And then what has happened is that then they've got, where that corner that does not meet as a diagonal corner, there is a, is there a, is
It's
there
a yellow flashing light and a red flashing light.
Caution
going both
light.
ways. And it really hasn't done anything.
there is, if, the only thing that can happen is, I would think that if a letter of concern is, is it time to reevaluate the downtown part of Palmerston, because it's obviously getting busy. It's getting the growth. There's more
Well,
traffic happening downtown.
Yeah. There's a mini rush hour every.
Yeah. So a letter of
so-
request would maybe let's reevaluate the traffic downtown, and is there a need for something more than just a flashing light?
Yeah, and
There's always we always have to look at.
Obviously, doesn't have to meet numbers.
Right.
Just has to meet the accessibility of somebody getting across the street. Correct.
So it's something that should always be looked at, because you're always looking for safety of people.
Okay, might consider that in the near future.
Good.
Thanks.
Any other questions for our county councillor, Dave Anderson? Hearing done. Dave, thank you very much.
And thank you, Acting Deputy Mayor, for the opportunity to speak to council.
Appreciate you bringing that.
That has a
and,
nice flow.
Explaining
It
to
does.
us how it works.
Thank you.
So next on the agenda is the correspondence received for information or required direction of council. There's 5 items there. Is there any of them that anybody wants to speak on? The E is the Association of the Municipal Managers. Not sure how many folks know, but Annaleen has been successful in her AMCTO designation. And congratulations, Annaleen.
Yeah.
Oh, she got the plaque
Yeah.
2 weeks ago, yeah. Okay.
Um,
So, do we have a resolution on that, or just, can I have a motion and a seconder for that? To accept Councillor Elliott, Councillor Dirksen, all in favor of that? Against? That's carried. So, reports of committees and town staff, matters tabled, and motions for which notice has been previously given. 2 items, committee minutes for receipt, the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority and the Clifford Jamesway Manor meeting minutes. Do we want to talk about the Saugeen Valley? Anything on there that we want to talk about? The Clifford Jamesway Manor. Can I have a motion then? Seconder, Councillor Dirksen and Councillor Anderson. All in favor of those, accepting those 2 sets of minutes? Against? That's carried. Committee minutes for approval. The Minto Trail Committee, where's Matt? You want to talk about the minutes?
Probably not.
Guess I could do it.
Terry, you moving?
I was gonna go check this with these.
Okay, is there any questions on the trail?
Mr. Acting Deputy Mayor, Mr.
Go
Chair.
ahead,
Um,
CAO White.
We did meet for the first time in December, and at the direction of the committee, we have sent letters out to landowners who are along the trail, and in particular the links that have yet to be made. And they were encouraged to contact Matt, who has actually been in contact with 1 or 2 of the landowners already, and will be setting up meetings. The idea is, even though we weren't successful in our grant application, we still would like to continue on with the idea of connecting the entire trail. So when we meet with those individuals to see whether or not the land is available, and if it is available, under what terms it might become available, then we would be going back to the committee and discussing options with them. And also we would need to, at that committee, begin to add in the Palmerston Trail people, the Greenway Trail people, and the Clifford Trail people, so that they can have representation on this. As you recall, last meeting, we had the Palmerston Trail people here, not here, but writing you and seeking input on how the trails would function in the future. I have, further to that meeting, also been in touch with our lawyer to try and conclude that transaction, and the Palmerston Trail people, I spoke to Mrs. Forbes, I believe is Sue. She was receptive to the idea of the first right of refusal, and she was planning on bringing forward her other issues when the trail committee fully formed. So this is the first meeting. I don't think we should be too discouraged by not getting the federal funding, because there still is that county funding, and it seems like some willingness on some landowners, at least one landowner, to talk to us about linking through. So that's good news. There's also some opposition out there too, so we'll see where it takes us.
Okay.
But if there's no other questions, we just need a motion to accept.
Thank you, Councillor Caldwell. Seconder, please. Councillor Anderson. All in favor of those accepting those minutes? Against? That's carried. Trees for Minto. Judy, you want to talk on that, or?
Yes, we had a meeting last week, I believe that was. Yeah, really very good group of people on that committee. Lots of talk about how we might be able to help some landowners with planting some more trees in their area, in their property. I guess it's kind of important to say, because it's been a little bit of a misunderstanding out there, that the thought was kind of out there in people's heads that if we planted some trees upstream of Harriston that we would do something to help with the flooding. But the truth of the matter is, in a major flood, it won't matter. The water will be in Harriston, and the problem is in Harriston because Harriston is built on a river. But there may be some small advantage to planting those trees in a smaller flood type situation, a smaller flood event. But in any case, there's lots of other great reasons for planting trees, and there's a lot of different programs. Really, we got some really good information on different programs and ways that farmers and non-farmers can get some funding for planting some trees on their properties. So,
Questions for Councillor Bergson? I have a mover then, seconder, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Anderson, that we accept the trees for Minto minutes. All in favor? Against? That's carried. Thank you. Now we're into staff reports, and we have the severance report for B716 Brown Cecilia Street in Clifford. And
Oh, look at that.
I'm Stacy tonight.
okay,
This
Stacy.
afternoon. Yep.
Thank you, Terry.
Okay, this proposal is for severance up in Clifford. The parcel is located generally at the corner of Geddes and Cecilia Street. It's an irregular shaped property. The proposal is to sever off the orange portion from the green, as shown on that picture. So basically on the reference plan, it's parts 3 and 7. The proposal for that lot is for a residential building lot. Part 2 is the retained portion, which they're not proposing at this time for development. The part 7, part 3 parcel has servicing off of Getty Street, whereas part 2 has access to water main on Cecilia, but no sanitary sewer. Also part 1, and since the aerial photo was taken, there's been a pool that's being constructed at the rear of 41 Getty Street. And it appears, it's not shown on the reference plan, but it does appear that it encroaches onto part 2, which is creating a zoning deficiency, as well as the severed and retained parcel don't have sufficient lot frontage. So there's a slight zoning need for that one. The frontage that they have is about 65.68 feet wide, and they need 66 as per the zoning. So that can be addressed through a minor variance. And the only other thing that was noted is there are no current entrances to either the severed or retained parcel. And due to the geography of the land, it's a little on the low side. At the time of building permit, we're going to require them to submit a grading plan just to make sure water flows where it's supposed to be flowing. So staff recommends that council recommends to the County of Wellington to approve the severance application with the conditions. First one's the standard conditions of financial or otherwise. The second is also a standard one with the parkland dedication to be paid. Condition number 3 has to do with the pool, and just to verify exactly whether or not it is located onto part 2. Condition number 4 deals with the zoning deficiency of the insufficient frontage. Number 5 is just a note about development charges that will be applicable at the time of building permit. Condition number 6 deals with the servicing concerns on part 2. Mainly that a servicing agreement is established to the satisfaction of Public Works, as well as an access to both the severed and the retained parcel as needed. That's
Questions for our CBO, Councillor Caldwell?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, Acting Deputy Mayor. I'm trying to understand exactly what they're doing.
okay.
So are they building a house on one of these lots?
This parcel is owned by several members of the same family.
Okay.
And it looks like they're just splitting it up to make it more sellable.
So are they getting 4 lots? Is that?
They're only getting 2 out of the 1. So currently, the blue portion on that left aerial photo is the parcel.
Right.
And they're severing part 7 and 3 off of the entire thing and retaining part 2. So essentially, 7 and 3 will be all one lot, and then part 2 will be a separate one.
So 7 and 3, could that eventually be 2 additional?
Someone
could
down the
ask for
road
7
could come forward and sever part 3 off of 7, which will bring up the same servicing issues that part 2 has.
And then
So-
part 1 is?
Part 1 is already built on. It's the one that has the pool.
Okay, yeah. It is. All right.
Yep. So yeah, you can see the house in the aerial photo.
Okay. So they're planning to build on part 2. Is that the idea?
No, the
first-
proposal is not to build on part 2. The proposal is to build a house on part 7 and 3. So a single house
One
on
house.
in the orange.
It's very strange.
So is the entranceway to the house going to be on Getty Street?
It's going to be up to them where they want to place the house. It'll be up to Public Works to approve where the driveway goes to. But technically, they could pull services off of Getty, loop it through, and then have the house look like it fronts on Cecilia. But that's going to be up to them. It's not going to be cheap to do it, but it is possible if someone wanted to.
Other questions? Councillor Anderson?
I have a couple. So they said we're going to check the placement of the pool, but if the pool is actually partially on the green parcel of land, then what happens?
We could, as part of the minor variance, you can rezone it. Like the issue with the pool over the property line is the setback issue.
Right.
So it can be addressed through the same minor variance that could address the frontage.
And I'm assuming it's not owned by the same people. That's a different person entirely?
Actually, it is.
Oh,
The
of course.
owner of part 1 is one of the part owners of parts 2, 3, and 7.
Okay. And then if we allow this, and like that's a very peculiar sort of conglomeration of land there, and if they did bring all their pipes and things through from Getty Street, potentially you're going to look at another brouhaha down the road if they sever them all and then somebody says, well, now I want to build on the top part, but the pipes go through to the bottom part, and we're going to be digging into them or address all of that before we allow them to start doing that sort of stuff.
We're going to make sure the pipes are
Okay.
located where they should be. Down the road, if they do opt to build on 3 and sever 7 off, you could just require them to do easements across it.
Okay.
There's actually an exact similar situation right across the road where there's an easement across private property to service an additional lot at the back. It's possible.
It's a peculiar configuration. that's all.
It's not normal.
Okay.
Councillor Dirksen?
Thank you. I was just wondering, will doing this severance make the frontage for part 2 also too small?
Deficient, yep.
Efficient,
Yep.
that's the word, yes.
Yep.
Okay, so that'll be
And-
addressed at the same time then?
Yes, being the minor variance has to occur before the severance is over, it would still be one application
Okay.
to address the deficiencies.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, CBO Terry.
Motion on that.
There is a motion.
The recommendation, Mr. Acting Deputy Mayor Chair.
I think you read through that recommendation
Yeah.
pretty good, CBO Terry. So can I have a mover and a seconder for that recommendation? Councillor Dirksen, Councillor Anderson. Is there any other questions?
I have no questions.
All in favor of that motion? Against? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you very much, Terry. The second item on the staff reports is the changes to the dates of the council meeting. Annaleen?
Thank you, Chair Turton. So as you know, through the procedural bylaw, we have to set out the dates for our meetings. I'm asking for a few changes. Moving the April 5th meeting forward to be held March 29th. Removing the August 16th meeting as everyone is away at AMO. And as well, we're moving the September 20th meeting due to International Plowing Match that week. As Ron's not here this week, someone has to bring up the International Plowing Match. So that has now been brought up. This would bring us down to 24 meetings. Normally we have about 26, so it does drop it by a couple. Nothing says that we couldn't add on later on if there was an emergency come up or whatever. We just want to make sure that we have a quorum or the maximum number of councillors available to be able to make the decision. That's all I have.
Questions? So the recommendation is that the council receive the CAO clerk and councillor's assistant's report dated October 9th, 2015 regarding the 2016 calendar and provide direction on meeting dates. We can change that date to today. And all in favor of the motion? Against? That's carried.
Sorry,
Thank
who moved
you.
and seconded?
Good question. Did we get a mover and a seconder?
I think we did.
Just surprises.
Yeah, me too.
There was two over
Thank
here
you.
on our left.
We'll see who she picks.
So the third item on our staff reports is to do with the provincial electric vehicle charger program, and we'll ask our CAO to enlighten us on that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't know if I can do that, but
Enlighten us.
we had been looking at the program. There's a grant program through the province for installing electric vehicle supply equipment. Those are the gas pump looking things that charge these electrical vehicles. The province is an initiative to try and get these spread throughout the province within the next by March of 2017. Our solar providers, Rolf Moorer or SunSaver 2 or ArtGen Solar, they have several companies, had also brought it to our attention and in fact offered to apply on our behalf. Which when someone's asking to do work on your behalf, we don't really have a problem with at this point. All we would be doing is committing to the application. If we were successful on getting one of these grants, then we would need an arrangement with ArtGen Solar on who would operate it, who maintains it, how they're installed. Essentially, they would want to install them, I think, is the approach that or reason why they might be willing to apply on our behalf. The other thing that they talked about, which is an interesting idea, is perhaps if we did get the solar panels, say on this facility here or at the arenas, which have all been applied for and are still on the books, could we link the power from the solar into these chargers somehow so that you have essentially a totally green type solution? And so we met as a rather short notice, but we met as a department head group and felt that there was enough here that we ought to look at proceeding with an application, and if council is willing to at least consider it, there's nothing ventured except for a resolution allowing ArtGen and or SunSaver 2 to apply on our behalf. And the locations we're looking at are the 3 community centers, arenas, and this location, the town office. They only approve them on 400 series as well as heavily traveled other highways, so we don't know whether 89, 9, or 23 would be considered heavily traveled or not, but they're going to be needed regardless, because if these sorts of vehicles become more and more popular, there'll be places for people to charge them.
Questions? So the recommendation is that the council receives the CAO clerk's January 27th, 2016. Sorry,
I have
Councillor
several,
Anderson?
I have
Sorry, pardon me.
several questions, if I may, acting deputy mayor. Electric vehicles, I think they're coming, but we talk about ecological well-being and our ecological footprint. Hydro has to come from somewhere. So if we're not able to tap into our solar systems, you're just burning a different type of fuel. You're not burning gas, but you're providing hydro. And I have huge concerns across the province, across the country from this, because you hear, well, this is the way of the future. That's great. Where's the hydro coming from? Hydro is not an invisible fuel. It just doesn't show up. It has to be produced. And if we can't produce it through solar energy, then we're producing it by burning another fuel. It's not coal anymore. but it's still a fuel that has an ecological footprint. So I object somewhat to their theory that we're going to eliminate all the ecological, and I have big concerns about ecological things. So if we had some sort of guarantee or fairly firm commitment that they were going to look at solar system being the power source, I'd be all in favor of it. But if we're just going to add to our hydro bills, are you going to generate enough revenue? They have some, we saw them at a couple of the conferences we were at, and they sound like a very sound economic development thing. If you strategize properly about your mileage and you figure out how long the batteries last and you have your solar chargers just where the batteries last, they got to stay there. You got a captive audience. It's a great opportunity for your downtown, which is very attractive. But I have some concerns. Hydro is not a non-toxic fuel source. It requires a fuel to be burned to produce it, unless we're producing it by solar and wind. And we're nowhere near far enough on the technology to do it by wind yet. I think that time will come as the pressures become more and more pressing. But I just have some concerns.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so the recommendation is that the council receives the CAO clerk's January 27, 2016 report regarding provincial electric vehicle charger program and agrees to Arjun Solar and or Sunsaver 2 preparing and submitting an application for 100% provincial funding of installing electric vehicle supply equipment at the town office, the Harrison Minto Community Complex, the Clifford Arena, and the Palmerston Community Center, on the understanding an installation, maintenance, and cost sharing agreement will be negotiated between the parties if the application is successful.
If I just wanted to maybe answer a little bit Councillor Anderson's questions, because I think as a policy question, it's certainly one that's valid. The thought was, it seems like this tidal wave has already started to land, and so do we want to continue to join in with it and see where it takes us? And that was our feeling. I think others would have some appreciation of the concerns you're expressing. We did look at the cost, and they are suggesting that there are limits on what you can even charge to charge your vehicle, and it's something like $10, which maximum, which is pretty low. And so the volume of vehicles coming through here is, I can't imagine we'd have more than a handful a year for the time being. So we certainly should not expect that there will be a lot of money coming for maintenance, but on the other hand, not a lot of power drawn out of them either. So the question is, we are doing, if we did get one here, we are hopefully doing some work around the office. It may be the time to do it. So that's what our feeling was. So, but I mean, I appreciate what you're saying. Where does the power come from? And it's remarkably inexpensive to run. The CBO did some calculations. He could go over them better than I. But even if we look to replace our vehicle that in our current budget is set to be replaced, we did have one of these stations, we could actually go with an electrical vehicle for quite a bit less fuel. But
At our current hydro rates.
yeah, at current hydro rates. So I don't know if you are interested in that information or not at this point, but we have it if you're interested.
Councillor Anderson.
If I may again, and I'm not trying to be against, I just have concerns, and I think, it is the wave of the future. It's what's coming. It's very attractive to me, the idea of how far is it? How far are we from the centers? I don't know how long a battery lasts in an electric car.
Here we go. Yes, that.
Thank you, CVO Terry.
Depends on what type of vehicle you purchase. They're as low as 115, 120 kilometers up to 450. So it drastically varies depending on the vehicle.
But we could fall well within that range. You'd be getting Toronto people heading up cottage country, and they would stop here, which would be very good for economic development. And that was very interesting to me. I would just suggest that we look as hard as we can at, can we solar power these as much as possible? Because I just think hydro costs are not going to stay static. We're going to reach Europe's rates sooner rather than later. And then other alternatives are going to become much more attractive to us all of a sudden. Wind power's energy sources won't be nearly as objectionable as they are so far. Hydro has to come from somewhere, and we're burning uranium. Might not be coal, but it's not a very toxic friendly substance for the human race. My concerns about that.
Other questions?
Mr. Chair, just if we do have a vehicle to replace, and if we did happen to get one of these chargers, we can bring back the information on the electrical option. But I mean, Terry could probably go through it very briefly. We figure we could get probably a few weeks, not a few weeks, few days driving on one charge for an electrical vehicle.
It depends on the usage of it. Basically, if it was Public Works or myself, we put on a lot more mileage than what the rec department would. However, we're burning a lot more fuel. Like it depends on the utilization of the vehicle. In the summertime, myself, I'll put on over 200 kilometers in Minto alone. Wintertime, yeah, it would last me a few days, that's for sure. So it depends.
Councillor Coleman.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, I also have seen vehicles that will do both.
Mhm.
They're electric, and then in an emergency, they would go over to gas. Just so you won't be stranded somewhere in the middle of nowhere with your battery run out.
I think those are the smart cars. Go ahead.
I have one more
Councillor
question.
Anderson.
I'm sorry to be such a pain about this, but I find it fascinating. So the issue then becomes, obviously there's a battery storage problem. Now, working in healthcare, batteries have been the bane of our existence for my entire career because they inevitably etch. Do these batteries discharge power even if the vehicle is not being? So if you charge it and you're not going to use it very much and it's sitting, it's going to discharge.
Yep.
Somebody's going to charge it up again because they don't want to run short. And eventually, in very short order, actually, you etch a memory on the best batteries ever made so far by the market. It doesn't matter. There is no non-etchable battery out there. Because I've been in the back of an ambulance with a non-etchable battery that etched and had no power left in it. And it was not pretty.
I didn't, all the research that I did on it, I didn't look into in depth into the batteries. So I would be very surprised if, it would be any different than what.
It's going to be like
what
your
you
iPhone.
experienced.
Eventually, it's going to get shorter and shorter charge capacity, and they become useless, and then they have to be replaced, and they're exceedingly expensive.
That's why I stick to BlackBerry.
There's a little plug for something.
So can I have a motion and a seconder for this? Thank you, Councillor Elliott. Councillor Caldwell, all in favor of this recommendation? Against? That's carried. I'll pass the chair now to our finance chairman, Councillor Caldwell.
Acting Deputy Mayor. And the Finance Committee has 3 items on the agenda tonight, or this afternoon, excuse me, and I'll turn it over to Treasurer Duff to present the approval of accounts for January 25th.
Okay, thank you, Chair Caldwell. So we've got a few interesting things, mostly finishing up 2015 projects. In economic development, we gave a facade and signage grant to Hearth and Leisure in Clifford. An interesting thing on the snow removal, we have the cost of 3 snow removals, so that's all the downtowns, and that's about $31,500. So it's roughly almost $11,000 every time we remove snow. So again, you get into these level of service discussions on that. Another $71,000 in paving, mostly James Street, Low and Walker, those projects. And the final $30,000 on the connecting link at the north end of Harrison, which really was a 13-14 project, but the final holdback is now released there. $25,000 in salt and sand, and about $39,000 in well upgrades at well 2 in Harrison. And you may remember from capital budgeting, we still got the majority of that work to be done in 2016. And another small but interesting one, we've got the old rolling stock at the museum on the tracks, and that was $2,200 for the crane to put it on the tracks. So yeah, anyway, at least I got that done.
So are there any
Highlights?
questions on the accounts? No, then the recommendation is the Council of the Town of Minto receive the Treasurer's report dated January 25th, 2016 regarding approval of accounts and approves the Town of Minto accounts by department for December 2015 and January 2016. Could I have someone make that motion? Councillor Anderson, seconded by Acting Deputy Mayor Turton. All in favor? And the next item on the agenda is the Treasurer and Tax Collector Section 357 applications.
Okay, so 357s are generally write-offs due to a change in the property. And here we have a couple of barn demolitions, so that reduces the assessment. And we have another one where a property used to have some commercial use and is now fully residential. The amounts are all pretty small on this one.
Are there any questions? Okay, the recommendation is the council receives the February 2016 report from the treasurer and tax collector regarding section 357 applications, and that these applications be approved. May I have someone make that motion, please? Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Elliott. All in favor? And the motion is passed. And the final one is the minutes and settlement and assessment adjustments.
So these are normally appeals or changes that impact is done. We've got 4 of them. 3 of them are kind of routine. Often when farm property change, it goes back to the residential class and catch up with it, goes back into the thing. And I always say, well, you never see increases in this, and we actually have an increase on this one. And that one, I asked our tax collector out there. This is someone that built a house on land, and when the assessment came through, they assessed the house and took off the land. And this is the assessment on the underlying land, which of course was there all the time. So they call that an error. So anyway, again, the dollars are small, but yes, I guess it's possible to get an increase.
Are there any questions? No? Then the recommendation is that council receives the February 2016 report from the treasurer and tax collector regarding assessment adjustments, and these adjustments be approved. Could I have someone make the motion, please? Acting Deputy Mayor Turton, seconded by Councillor Anderson. All in favor? Passed. Thank you, Treasurer Duff, and I turn the chair back to Acting Deputy Mayor Turton.
Thank you, Councillor Caldwell. We have one item this afternoon from the Public Works Department, and our water sewer foreman, Wayne Metzger, is going to tell us some news here.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Turton, Acting Mayor, all that. Anyways, as we all know, that our current compliance coordinator and DWQMS rep, Daryl Bueller, is retiring as of the 26th of February of this year. So with our commitments to our Safe Drinking Water Act, we need to replace that person. And also have a alternate as the ORO. So through succession planning, we have Todd Roger has been working diligently with Daryl, and we've had him in some training to become our new compliance coordinator and DWQS rep, and also take on a role as an acting ORO. So we feel he's knowledgeable, capable, and feel he'll do a great job for us. He holds his level 2 water distribution license, and we'd like to see if we could have the approval to have Todd Rogers step into Daryl Bueller's role, and also wish Daryl all the best in the future with his new endeavor in the retirement world. So,
thanks, Wayne. Questions? I think we all kind of knew this was coming, and succession planning is great, and I really believe that we've got a good man here in Todd. And so the recommendation is that the council receives the Public Works Director's report dated January 29th, 2016, regarding the naming of the Compliance Coordinator, DWQMS representative, and alternate ORO, and that council considers a bylaw in open session. I have a mover and a seconder, Councillor Elliott, Councillor Caldwell. All in favor of that recommendation? Against? That's carried. So you're right, Wayne. We, in the near future, will be doing something for Daryl, I'm sure. And until that time, thank you guys. Thank you very much. So moving right along, other business disclosed as additional. Who wants to go first? Councillor Caldwell.
Yeah, I have 2 items, and I just was at the doctor recruitment committee meeting last week at the Palmerston Hospital, and I just wanted to give you an update on the Minto Rural Health Center. As of the end of February, or the 25th of February, I believe, it will be 95% complete, and the first leasee will be going in April 1st. So it is sounding like it is pretty well, a good portion of it is leased, and something that we're very, very fortunate to have in our area, and will be a great attraction for residents coming to. And then the second is my final reminder of Chamber of Commerce annual general meeting next Monday night at the CNR building in Palmerston. Strategic planning at 6:30, the annual general meeting at 7:30. So we certainly would love if council would consider attending our strategic planning. We would really appreciate your point of view and suggestions. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Caldwell. Councillor Dirksen, please.
Thank you.
That's
So my understanding about the Minto Rural Health Center is that because a doctor who had, need to stop doing that, a doctor that had only spoken for one office has actually decided that he would like to, and so now we are fully subscribed, that it is entirely rented. So that's a little bit of an update that I just heard the other night. So yeah, so really good news on that. And just on that same vein, talking about the North Wellington Healthcare and Groves Memorial Hospital and the memorandum of understanding that has been put out. I attended a meeting last Tuesday evening, I believe it was, in Palmerston, and nope, it was Wednesday, and there was a fairly good turnout of interested residents in finding out what this would mean. Really, it's entirely a governance issue, and so there really won't be any. I don't think the residents of our area will really see any difference. And there was also a meeting then the next evening in Mount Forest, which I did not attend, and I understand there were a few less people there. And then there is a meeting tomorrow evening down at Wellington Place for the kind of the Groves side of it. So anyways, all in all, it's been a process to get from where we started to here, but it seems like everybody is happy with it, and everybody's going to work hard to make it work.
Thank you, Councillor Dirksen. Any others? Just wanted to make everybody aware that everyone in Minto is invited. It's Wednesday night, 7 p.m. It's the annual general meeting for the Maitland Valley Conservation Authority. We're going to have an overview from the Trees for Minto. Also, our mayor will be running the election. So the other thing that's happening in February in our community is the Bowl for Millions, the Big Brothers and Big Sisters. So I'm asking you to get involved and or give some money. Third thing is a weather report. I've got a weather alert from the Wellington County Meteo Group Weather Services. 9 p.m. tonight. We've got a system moving in this evening. It may start as a period of snow and freezing rain between 9 and midnight, with temperatures between -2 and 0 north of Guelph. Temperatures will soar above freezing around or shortly after midnight, changing precipitation to rain. Freezing rain amounts of traced to 2 millimeters, possibly before ending, causing some isolated slippery spots on roads. So on my way home from work this afternoon, I witnessed one of our public works guys looking at the water level in the Maitland River by Young Street Bridge. And he told me that it's no serious issues, but it is up a bit. So other than that, thank you for the weather report. So we have a motion to move back into regular council, moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that the Committee of Whole convenes into regular council meeting. All in favor? Against? That's carried. Thank you. And then any notices of motion? Hearing none, we have a resolution to adopt the proceedings of the Committee of the Whole, moved by Councillor Caldwell, seconded by Councillor Elliott, that the Council of the Town of Minto ratifies the motions made in the Committee of Whole. All in favor of that? Against? Carried. So we get two bylaws. Moved by Councillor Anderson, seconded by Councillor Dirksen, that bylaw 2016-06 to appoint Todd Rogers as compliance coordinator and alternate overall responsible operator pursuant to the Safe Drinking Water Act be introduced and read a first, second, third time and passed in open council and sealed with the seal of the corporation. All in favor of that motion? Against? It's carried. The second item. Moved by Councillor Wright, seconded by Councillor Caldwell, that bylaw 2016-07 to confirm actions of the council of the corporation of the town of Minto be introduced and read a first, second, and third time and passed in open council, sealed with the seal of the corporation. All in favor of that motion? Against?
That just because he wasn't here, right?
In honor of Deputy Mayor.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Dirksen, seconded by Councillor Anderson, that the council of the town of Minto adjourn to meet again to call of the mayor. All in favor of that? That's carried.
I'll
All
turn on my
against?
machine.
Thank you.
Or the acting deputy mayor.
Good job.
I declare this.
Not working.
Thank you.
Working just fine. That's